When I was coming up here, I was a bit nervous, so a good friend of mine gave me 2 hints on how to deal with my nerves. The first was to imagine you all naked. I'm doing that right now, and I can see 1 or 2 of you have been bulking up for Christmas. I think you know who you are. And the other one is to have you all imagine me naked. You can do that now. If you've been doing it already, just stop because you're embarrassing yourself, okay? But there is only one rule. There's one rule of imagining me naked. And that one rule is the golden bedroom rule for over 40s. Anyone know what that is? No. Okay. You can laugh. You can smile. But you can never point. Have you noticed these days how everybody's become an amateur psychiatrist? Everybody's a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist. We've moved from a nation of shopkeepers into a nation of head doctors. In the old days, when you told someone something sad, they'd say, never mind, pull yourself together, stop whining. Now, they do the noise. You know what the noise is? Yeah. Do you know what the noise means? It means, that's so sad. It's so sad. That's probably why you're so fucked up. When I was a kid, I lived in quite a nice area. As it is written. When I was a kid, I lived in quite a nice area, you know, green hedges, yummy mummies, and the paedophiles were only allowed into the playground 1 at a time, and they had to wear suits, you know, and I got bullied a lot at school. Yeah, I was born, I'll tell you why. I was born in the Holloway Road in Islington. Well, not actually in the road, because I'd probably be dead by now, and I wouldn't be telling this story, but you know what I mean. And I was an Arsenal fan. All my family were Arsenal fans. Anyone an Arsenal fan here? Yay! So I went to school, and it was filled with Tottenham fans. Not so much. And they kept stealing my scarf and beating me up and telling me how they were going to win the league and this was going to be their year. Isn't it funny? The world changes, decades pass, and yet for Tottenham fans, everything stays the same. Also, when I went to school, I was one of only a few Jewish kids in the school. Not really surprising, actually. It was a church school. I don't know what my parents said with that. And some of you are old enough to remember that back in the day, the Pope issued an edict that every Jewish person who'd ever been born and ever would be born was personally responsible for killing Christ. Even 5-year-old Arsenal fans, I don't know, actually said that. And they used to beat me up for this, and I told them, I didn't do it. I wasn't there. I remember it, but I don't even know which team he played for. Anyway, in my later years, I became a lawyer. You see, no booze. Thank God for the bankers. Thank you, Diana. Hey, bankers! Bankers are all okay. Anyway, I'm not the kind of lawyer who goes to court, and I haven't been to court for many years. And I went back there about 6 months ago, and I was quite aghast actually, because it used to be the centre of our justice system, and now it's become a 3-ring circus. It's full of overbearing egos, playground bullies, and just all-round bad guys. And that's just the lawyers. And I went in there, I couldn't believe it, because you have these weird characters. It didn't used to be like this. You have the senior barristers. These are the ones who talk to the judge. And they're like God. They breathe different air. They walk around and they just look down at you. They're like the consultants in hospitals, you know? And if you catch their eye, God forbid you should catch their eye, they just, okay, and they move on. There's no there, I can tell you. And then you have the junior barristers. These are kind of the ones who've made it, got the money, and still young enough to have the girls. And it's kind of the street has moved in to the court. And they kind of walk around like this. Like high-fiving each other. It's absolutely crazy. It's kind of, fuck that witness over. Yeah. Yeah. Well, in that case, there's some money. Yeah. And the weird thing, at the back of the court, behind them all, sits the solicitor. The solicitor is the one who pays them all. So he sits there in a big chair, like Don Corleone. You may kiss on my ring, yeah. May your first child be a masculine child. Don't fuck with me ever. But the most weird thing, and I find this really strange, and I'm really quite passionate about this, is they still swear on the Bible. I want you to think about this for a moment. You have an axe murderer who puts his hand on the Bible and swears to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. He puts his hand on a book that has more death, destruction, pestilence, sexual crimes, lies and inconsistencies than anything else. And that's the truth. What's that about? I mean, it says in the Bible that God created the world in 7 days. Well, 6 actually, they had a kick on the 7th. And scientists tell us it took 4 billion years. It's kind of hard to find a compromise there, isn't it? You know, we'll call it 230 million and we're done, yeah? So what's that about? And when you say that to these guys who believe in the old 7-day thing, you probably know they're called creationists. They look at you and they go, yeah, we know about that. What the fuck does that mean, we know about it? It's like you're doing that science thing on us, aren't you? And, you know, recently it's become very, very cool to believe in it. I went on a Christian website the other day, don't ask why, and there was a guy on the front in a hoodie, and he was holding a sign saying, God created everything in 7 days. That's cool, man. Kind of like this. Can you believe it? I mean, it's become cool. You look like a kid who'd fucking broken into Dixon's and stolen a plasma TV in the riots. I mean, what was he trying to say? Think gangster, think creation story? Doesn't make sense, does it? And the other thing is, when you push them on this stuff, and you say, come on, it can't have been 7 days. They say, it's a metaphor. Oh, it's a metaphor. In other words, it's something entirely different from what you told us. Sounds a bit like the Greek economy, actually, doesn't it? Bankers, yeah. So can you imagine the bank robber in court, his hand on the Bible, and the judge says, you gave evidence that you were nowhere near the bank at the time of the crime, and yet, DNA evidence shows you were there precisely at the time. What do you have to say? Yeah, I know where you're coming from, but it's like a metaphor, you know? In recent times, I've lived in Highgate. Anyone know Highgate? Yeah, just down the road. Highgate, hands up for Highgate? Yeah, there's a few hands sprinkled around. Lovely place, Highgate. Very green. It's on Hampstead Heath. Not the part where George Michael does his noughties. And if my estate agent who's selling my flat is here, it's nowhere near that part, okay? But people in Highgate, they kind of slightly up themselves. Everybody's a film director, or a sculptor, or all sorts of things. Hi, Jerry. A film director, or a musician. I mean, even the accountants are kind of between gigs, you know? It's a strange place. And they have all these committees. There's library committee, art committee, and they have garden committees. And I went in to see what the garden committee do. And there were 2 women sitting there. And one said to the other, you know, Philippa, We simply can't have that hedge next to that grass. It's the wrong fucking colour green. Well, best have a word with God, because he clearly fucks up on the colour green, didn't he? And you've never met anybody who loves living in a place like Highgate. You know, some of these towns are twinned with places. You know what I mean? Like Birmingham's twinned with somewhere in Austria you've never heard of. Well, Highgate, there's a big sign outside saying Highgate, twinned with the Garden of Eden. Yeah, really, you don't believe me, go look. And it's kind of worrying, because when people from Highgate die, and they go to heaven, and believe me, people from Highgate always go to heaven, they're kind of disappointed. They kind of get to heaven, they go, well, like, is this it? And that green over there, that should really be over there, and it doesn't really work. And heaven is kind of, you know, they've got wise to it. So when Gabriel is standing in front of the gates of heaven, and all the souls are flooding there, and he stands there and says, "Welcome to heaven!" Oh, James Earl Jones thing's going there. "Welcome to heaven! Welcome to..." Oh, you're from Highgate, aren't you? Look, we're sorry, the big guy's still working on the gardens, and we know that the lawns are not what you're used to, and we're working on the bathrooms, but it'll be fine in the end. Just stick with it. The coffee's great. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm David Salamons, and you've been great. Thank you.